Good day, everyone. So, welcome again to our another discussion in our subject assessment in Learning 2. So, I'm very excited to announce to you guys and to congratulate everyone. This will be our last discussion for assessment in Learning 2. So, meaning after this, we will have our final examination. Thank and I'm very excited to start discussing our last topic, which is the reflective practice using assessment data. And this will be our lesson 11. So, after learning how to assess a student's learning by way of authentic assessment methods and tools, so this chapter is now focused on the assessment of your own teaching practice as a future teacher. So the assessment of your own teaching practice will be discussed based on number one, learners' attainment data as revealed in the test scores and non-test data. And the second one is your teaching performance as evaluated by your students, your peers, and your supervisors. So if the proof of the pudding is in the eating, then the proof of a teacher's teaching performance is in the learning and performance of his or her students after you have taught them. Necessarily, teachers have to examine learners' performance if they want to really know how effective they are in their teaching. So, the learners' test scores and learners' non-test data and other information serve as the learners' attainment data. So, the non-test data refer to students' product and performance and change in attitude, motivation, and values, or what we call our effective, that serve as evidence of learning. So, these products and performances usually make up the student's portfolio or e-portfolio as discussed in the earlier recorded discussion. So to assess your teaching practice as a teacher, you have to engage in what is called the reflective practice. So as John Dewey put it, we don't learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on experience. So that's the phrase reflective practice. So let us now define the what is reflective practice. So reflective practice is in its simplest form thinking about what you do. It is closely linked to the concept of learning from experience, in that you think about monitor and what you did and what happened, and decide based from that what you would do differently next time. So reflective practice is beyond casual thinking. So reflective practice requires a conscious effort to think about events and develop insight from them. So it also encourages teachers to explore their own beliefs and assumptions about learners. So teaching learning including assessment and to find solutions to problems. So the reflective practice for teachers whose main task is to teach is to analyze data that reveal if they are teaching effectively or not, as a proven by learners learning expressed in learners test scores derived from traditional assessment or in non-test data shown in learners products, processes performed, and changes in attitude, values, and motivation. So as if you remember that is our authentic and performance assessment. So using learner attainment data, so we have here a measure of teaching effectiveness. So the question here is which can serve as a sources of data that reveal learners' attainment of learning outcomes that ultimately reflect teachers' teaching effectiveness. So the learners' attainment data serve as a measure of teachers' teaching effectiveness. So they can be analyzed to monitor and evaluate learners' progress and achievement. So they are the result of effective teaching. So let us now take a look at the different documents that teachers can use to monitor learners' performance. So number one is we have the DLL, or what we call the daily lesson log. So this is for a week that shows the lesson for each day with the index of mastery computed accurately. So the index mastery contains the learner's attainment that the measure the learner's mastery level of competency. So it guides the teachers in their instruction and allows them to determine whether the learners are ready to proceed to the next lesson or if they need additional activities for remediation. So likewise, the teacher may also use the data to modify or adjust his or her instruction in order to address the needs of his or her learners. So aside from DLL, we have also the electronic class record or the ECR. So this is another document that teachers use to monitor and evaluate the learner's progress and achievement. So the electronic class record includes the grade sheet and summary of quarterly grades, allow teachers to monitor individually the learner attainment data per specific learning area and assess whether the learner passed or failed. So with this tool, teachers can clearly assess the progress and achievement of each learner and can provide him or her with instructional intervention and enrichment. So aside from this is we have the progress chart. So the teacher use the progress chart to monitor his or her learner's progress quarterly based on class average. So the chart helps the teacher to have a general assessment of the learner's progress and to design activities appropriate to their level of proficiency. So these forms, particularly the DLL and ECR, used by teachers are provided by the school. So the templates are also available for download in DepEd website. So the templates can easily be modified using Word file or Excel spreadsheet. So the progress chart, on the other hand, can be replicated using the mentioned computer programs. Always feel free to ask for technical assistance from your teacher friends in using, modifying, or creating these forms. We have also here the suggestions for the use of documents. To use the documents more effectively, teachers should take note of the following suggestions. So number one here is plan monitoring and evaluation activities. So before the school year begins, we may identify monitoring and evaluation activities to be conducted daily, weekly, quarterly, and yearly. So the documents or school forms needed for these activities may already be prepared and saved in folders or in the computer. Second one is monitor and evaluate learners' performance regularly and consistently. So a day without monitoring and evaluation may cause us to miss serious problems in the learner's learning. So if left unchecked, this will certainly hamper the learner's academic success. So monitoring and evaluating learners' performance religiously according to plan is the best way to avoid potential problems in the process. Next is we have the explore varied monitoring and evaluation documents. So, although our schools provide us with the standard documents and school forms such as the DLL or the ECR, we can always find or create additional ones that can help us in the monitoring and evaluation process. So, for instance, we may also use a daily checklist to track our learners' performance, or a daily progress chart, not just quarterly, may give us immediate information about the learner's achievement of the daily target so as to provide a prompt intervention. So another strategy is to have an anecdotal record of each learner in order to gain a more individualized assessment of the learner's progress. Next is validate monitoring and evaluation documents to ensure accuracy of learner attainment data. So a number of monitoring and evaluation documents may be used. So however, we must ensure that these documents are validated and reliable, such as those provided by DepEd. So you must do some research and testing of the assessment documents before using them so that the learners are evaluated accurately and fairly. So last but not the least is involve the learners in certain types of monitoring and evaluation. So the monitoring and evaluation is definitely hard work, especially for teachers handling large classes. So as a strategy, we may also instruct our learners to have a group or peer monitoring within the class and check their progress quickly. So this may help the learners become more conscious of the quality of their performance and aim for a higher achievement. So these are the suggestions for the use of documents. So we have also here other ways of evaluating learner achievement. So here are the ways. Number one is the item analysis. So as we all know, the item analysis is a process which examines learners' responses to individual test items in order to assess the quality of each test item and of the test as a whole. So this is to improve test items and to enhance the teacher's skills in test construction and to identify specific areas which need improvement. So an effective item analysis starts from a carefully written test based on the table of specifications, or what we call the TOS. So the competencies covered for the grading period are included and organized according to the domains of learning. So the teacher makes sure that the test construction aligns with the TOS, or the table of specification. So you can evaluate the achievement of the class in their respective learning areas. So you can also determine the least mastered skill or competencies and evaluate their attainment data. So in addition, you can compare the mastery level of a group of learners with other groups. So you may also change the item that only a few learners answered correctly, which may indicate that the question is ambiguous or is not part of the learning competency. So the teacher makes sure that the test construction aligns with the table of specification. So with the TOS, you can evaluate the achievement of the class in their respective learning areas. You can also determine the least mastered skill or competencies and evaluate their attainment data. So in addition, you can compare the mastery level of a group of learners with other groups. So you may also change the item that only a few learners answered correctly, which may indicate that the question is ambiguous or is not part of the learning competency. So the results of an item analysis may inform the teacher of the necessary intervention. So for example, enrichment, activities, reteaching, remediation that we can provide to the learner. So that is the item analysis. So aside from item analysis, we have also the frequency table with mean score, standard deviation, and mean percentage. So in addition to the item analysis, you may also measure learner achievement by using a frequency table for pretest and post-test results. So the mean score, standard deviation, and mean percentage of pretest and post-test are computed and compared. So learner achievement is determined by calculating the mean score or mean percentage increase from pretest to post-test. So by analyzing test results, we can evaluate learner achievement in several areas. So specific weaknesses of an individual learner or a class can also be determined using this approach. So aside from this, we have the reflective practice through performance evaluation. So as expressed in the above paragraphs, or what I've mentioned earlier, the most concrete and obvious proof of teachers' teaching performance is students' learning or students' demonstration of the learning outcomes. So in addition to learners' performance, however, teachers' performance can also be evaluated by the students themselves, peers, and supervisors. So let us not forget that the teacher self-evaluation is also a rich source of teachers' evaluation performance for teachers with that genuine desire for continuous professional development. But mind you, dear teachers, this is just one of the many sources and not the only source of information as regard to the teaching performance. So remain open to the observation and evaluation comments of your primary customers, the students, and your colleagues and supervisors. So the reflective practice is not necessarily an individual activity. So it is a shared activity. So each of us has a blind spot. So others help us see ourselves objectively, and besides a reflective practice of performance evaluation that is shared among teachers, students, fellow teachers, and supervisors lead to the building of a professional learning community. So, with teachers' performance evaluation from students, peers, supervisors, and self, we are assured of a reliable 360-degree assessment. So, it is no wonder why in many school systems, the teacher's performance rating is a product of the teacher's evaluation by students by his or her department head or by the dean, for some schools, by the teacher himself or herself. But some important reminders for teachers and school to benefit to the optimum is number one is evaluation from each sector of evaluators must not be viewed in isolation. And last, teacher must remain reflective, honest, and open to other comments and observation. So students as evaluators. So making students evaluation meaningful. So meaningful student involvement calls for something that is deliberate, empowering, for reaching, and sustainable. So engaging students as evaluators calls for educators to develop practical, applicable feedback opportunities where students are encouraged to be honest, open, and solution-oriented. So students find particular investment in evaluation when they can see tangible outcomes and have some measure of accountability from the systems, educators, or situations they are evaluating. So by involving students as evaluators, schools can develop purposeful, impacting, and authentic assessment of classes, schools, teachers, and enact accountability and ownership for all participants in the learning process. So the effective evaluations may include student evaluations of classes and schools, student evaluations of teachers, student evaluations of self, and student parent-teacher conferences where students present their learning as partners with teachers and parents. So instead of as passive recipients of teaching than to them. So, engaging students as evaluators should not mean replacing any other evaluations. So, instead, it should be seen as an additional information source. So, this is true whether students are evaluating themselves, their peers, classroom curricula, school climate, or their teachers directly. So, students' evaluation should not replace teacher evaluation. So to get the most from students' evaluation, students need to be partnered meaningfully with adults and need to be taught about what they are evaluating. So last but not the least is the peer as evaluator. So making peer evaluation of teaching work. So peer evaluation or peer review is a type of performance evaluation that is done by one or more people of matching competencies. So the peer review is usually done among the members of the same team. So this is a method employed to preserve the quality standard at a desired level and improve productivity and performance. So it is understandable why peer evaluation of teaching consists of the review of teaching performance by colleagues usually in the same or similar discipline. So, a peer review is also part of the 360-degree assessment along with the teacher students evaluation. So, the self-review and the manager assessment, it helps in pointing out the strengths and the weaknesses that the teacher faces at the ground level. So, these are the other ways of evaluating learner achievement. So, we have the item analysis, we have the frequency table, reflective practice, students as evaluators, and peer as evaluators. So, let us now talk about how to make a peer evaluation. Number one here is to support from school administrators. So, the support administrators recognize that experienced teachers, through their daily contact with students, provide effective role models for one another. So, the administrators who support teachers are aware of the importance of empowerment and see themselves as facilitators at the end. Next is trust. So this is the foundation for productive communication, opens the door for self-evaluation. time. This, as with anything else that we hope to learn and grow from, this process also takes time. So sometimes above and beyond the school day, however, the time spent is well worth the rewards gained. Next is voluntary. Voluntary. So if teachers feel coerced by other teachers or administrators, the necessary foundation of trust will not exist. So these are two ways on how to make a peer evaluation work. So let us now proceed to the general supervisory programs procedure. So the supervisory programs of the Department of Education go with three phases, which is the start up, the build up, and with closure before move on. So in phase 1, we have the start up includes establishing the specific purpose of the supervisory activity. So as a database teacher support, it will use either the information derived from the results of the teacher strengths and need assessment or the TSNA and the individual plan for professional development or the IPPD, or from the Department of Education directives in the implementation of programs and projects. So the phase 1 will also clarify whether the purpose of the activity is diagnostic or formative appraisal, which is component of the competency-based performance appraisal system for teachers or the CB-FAST. Support intervention visit, follow-up of support intervention or a celebration visit. So that is the phase 1, the start up. Now the phase 2, this is the build up. So build up specify the supervisory activities that may occur on site or off site, or if the support will be online or outside the school. So the build up follows three subphases. This includes the pre-conference, the actual support activities, and the post-conference. Now we have the phase 3. So that is the closure to move on. So this provides a temporary cost to conclude the specific support intervention activity where most of the hand-holding ends in teachers' autonomous and the professional learning community begins. So the greater role of the professional learning community to continually provide support to each teacher becomes more apparent in this phase. So in the phase 3, activities include the exit conference, the evaluation, celebration, and the smooth transition to the various activities of the professional learning community in the school. So aside from this, we have tools for instructional supervision. So the Department of Education cites various forms used by the school administrators or supervisors in classroom supervision. So we have here the CB Pass. The formative appraisal tool is being utilized as instructional supervision form 3. So this links the instructional supervision process as a formative evaluation in the performance appraisal of the teacher. So these are the basic tools included. Instructional supervision form 1 or the I forgot to include here the pre-observation information, the instructional supervision form 2 or the post-observation information, and the instructional supervision form 3, the ABC teacher observation technique. So the instructional supervision support of intervention strategies, these are the embedded learning, study groups, action research, peer teaching, mentoring, and etc. So these are the instructional supervision. So number 1, we have the study group. So in study group, this is the study group of teachers interested in collegial study and actions such as curriculum design and instructional innovation. So it engages teachers in dialogue, helping them to make meaning of information and develop a shared understanding about topics such as values, pedagogy, and learning. Next is action research. So the teacher researcher engages in research to address a problem closely connected to his or her work, especially teaching. So action research gives teachers the skills they need to work on problems specific to student learning. The third one is the peer teaching coaching. So it is a professional development strategy that enables teachers to consult with one another, discuss and share teaching practices that increase student learning and support and help ensure quality education for all students. So peer teaching relationship is built on confidentiality and trust in a non-threatening, secure environment in which teachers learn and grow together. Next is mentoring. So it is a supervisory procedure where the instructional supervisor or the school head, so a master teacher or a teacher who is more skilled, helps or guide another teacher for professional growth. So we have also the conferencing. So it is a conference between a school head and a teacher classroom supervision. So if correctly employed, it gives each teacher the special help needed to become a proficient in self-analysis, self-appraisal, and self-improvement. Last is the walkthrough. This is a brief visit to classrooms throughout the school, conducted frequently on an informal or non evaluative basis designed to collect patterns of data. That can help, I think, members of the professional learning community to continually improve their teaching process. So it is a process of visiting classrooms for a short period of time or 5 to 15 minutes where the instructional program is observed and feedback is provided to teachers. So all in all, we have seen many sources of information by which teachers can assess their teaching performance. So the attainment of learning outcomes demonstrated by the learners is scores in tests and actual performance or change in attitude are direct evidence of teacher effectiveness. So, in conclusion, teacher evaluation comments from students, from peers, and from supervisors with the use of evaluation tools and classroom observation are also other sources of information regarding the teacher teaching effectiveness. So, put this data together, teachers will be able to assess themselves, particularly their teaching effectiveness. So, this information and feedback are for teachers to reflect on and so engage in reflective practice that leads to continuous quality improvement. So that's all for today's discussion. So this will be our last topic for the subject assessment and learning tools. So I will announce when will be the final examination, and please prepare yourself. Start studying the coverage of the final examination. So thank you very much. I hope you learned something and see you in our final examination. So happy Aral everyone. God bless. So again, please make sure to finish the presentation um for you to know the performance activity for this lesson. So goodbye. God bless everyone. So for your performance activity, answer the following questions. This is consists of 80 points. Put your answer in the comment section below by following the format. So again, you have to put your or include your name, your block or cluster, and your answer. So the deadline of submission of the performance activity would be on July 31, 2023, 8 p.m. only. So this is the first question. A common issue raised by teachers with regard to students' evaluation of teaching performance is how can students evaluate their teachers, for instance, in mastery of subject matter when the students themselves have no mastery of subject matter. And the second question is what is meant by reflective self-assessment by using learner assessment data and other reflection aids?